Welcome back to the Fresh Pea. There's a common misconception that biscuits are a challenge to make. But with a light hand and a little bit of knowledge, I'll show you how to make perfect biscuits every time. When you make biscuits, you need to do just a little bit of planning beforehand. You'll need to turn your oven on to 400 degrees or 205 degrees Celsius. You'll need to chill your butter really cold. What I do is I take the butter out, cut it into small cubes, and then I put it in the freezer while I'm measuring out my dry ingredients. So it'll have maybe 10 minutes in the freezer, and that's just enough to ensure that it's really cold. Cold butter will make flakier biscuits.
For this recipe, you'll need 2½ cups all-purpose flour, 3/4 cup whole wheat pastry flour, 1/4 cup cake flour, 1 tablespoon plus 2 teaspoons baking powder, 1 teaspoon sugar, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1 tablespoon vinegar with enough cream or whole milk to make 1½ cups of liquid, 12 tablespoons of very cold butter cubed.
If you're using buttermilk in this recipe, you can omit the acid. Buttermilk naturally has a high acidic level, so it's not needed. So you do have 3 options. You can use buttermilk, cream, or whole milk. Each will produce a different biscuit. If you want light, flaky, tender biscuits, buttermilk is your liquid of choice. If you want flaky, slightly crumbly, short biscuits, then whole milk is your choice. If you want crispy, tender, but crumbly, very short biscuits, more reminiscent of a scone, then cream is your choice. In the bowl of your standing mixer, combine all of your dry ingredients, your flours, your baking powder, sugar, and your salt. And just mix it around for a couple, just maybe a minute or so, just to get everything combined. If you don't have a standing mixer, you can do this with a whisk in a bowl. Now add your cold butter and mix it just until the butter starts to break up into chunks that are about the size of a hazelnut. Okay, there's a couple things about biscuits that you need to know. You do not want to overstir them. There's gluten in flour, and gluten is this bond that's very long and stringy, and it creates chewiness, and you don't want chewiness in your biscuits. So we're barely stirring in our butter. So you're going to have crumbs, like chunks that are maybe the size of hazelnuts. But we're going to add the milk, and I'm going to stir it as little as I possibly can to get everything into a cohesive mass. I'll show you what that looks like. That's as much mixing as I want to do. Dust your work surface with flour and scrape out your dough. So just slightly kind of push it together, and you want to smear the dough away from you. What this is doing is it's taking these last big chunks of butter and it's flattening them out, and this is going to help make flaky, lovely biscuits. So you just kind of smear your dough, and when you do this, it integrates the rest of the dough into a mass. And it will make it easier for rolling out. You don't want to overdo this, just a few times is enough. Shape your dough into a rectangle, like so. And roll it out. You're going to roll and fold a few times, so roll it thinner than you would normally want it for your finished biscuits. So roll and fold. And repeat this step 2 or 3 times. Okay, so now that you have your dough, the thickness that you like, you're ready to cut it. At this point you have options with your dough, so I've rolled it into a nice rectangle. I can just cut it with a knife and have perfectly square biscuits, or I can use a cookie cutter or a biscuit cutter and have round, traditional shaped biscuits. So to cut the biscuits, I'm going to cut the edges off, squaring up my rectangle. This is an optional step. Your biscuits will rise just as lovely. They'll just be a little less uniform in shape. When I do this, then I have a little chicken biscuit. My girls love biscuits. So that's my chicken biscuit. So this guy, you cut your rectangle in half. In half again. And then in half again. The more uniform the shape, the more even your biscuits will cook. At this point, you can freeze your biscuits. So you can actually, if you have room in your freezer, you can put them directly on your baking sheet and wrap the whole thing in a plastic wrap or a plastic bag, and you can freeze them. You can pull them out in individual servings to bake one at a time, or you can make them in the morning and then pull them out about an hour before you're baking them at night and have hot, fresh biscuits for dinner. So I'm going to go ahead and bake these off. You'll want to bake these between 18 and 22 minutes, depending on the size of your biscuits. Let your biscuits cool for just a minute or 2 on the pan before transferring them to your cooling rack. Now you can see these beautiful, tall, flaky, layered biscuits. A little bit of butter, a little bit of jam.